you find your true love, discussing money probably isn't the first thing that comes to mind, but financial expert Manisha Thakor says maybe it should be. She's the co-author of the book Get Financially Naked, and she joins us right now live from Santa Fe, New Mexico. Good to see you, Manisha.
So great to be here.
Okay, so when exactly does a couple start talking about money?
So I like to say, if you're willing to take your clothes off one way, you should be willing to take your clothes off with each other, financially speaking. And in a more literal sense, what that means is when you found the person that you think is the one, people are looking for the can't-miss investment, and I'm here to tell you it's talking about money with your honey.
That's cute. Okay, so first off, you got to talk about what kind of money honey may be bringing in. What are the salaries involved, and how eventually that might be divvied up?
Exactly. And Frederica, this balance of who's bringing what to a relationship has really shaken up. I think we're at a tipping point. 40% of women are now breadwinners in their families. Of working moms, 2/3 are breadwinners, co-breadwinners. So the traditional gender divides that came to that conversation about who's making what, who contributes what, it's all thrown up in the air, and we need a new way to talk to each other about this.
Wow. All right. So I guess there need to be some common ground then. If you know, the woman's making the most money, then that means that perhaps she's going to be paying most of the bills, right? Because while you may want to advocate that both parties are paying some bills, if one is making a whole lot more than the other, then now you got to figure out, how do I split up the ratio of the bill paying, right?
Frederica, you've nailed it. And there's not a right or wrong solution. The key is to discuss it, but there are a couple of different options that you have. One is to pay proportionally. So if the household income is $100,000, one person's making $70,000, the other's making $30,000. You might want to have the person making $70,000 pay 70% of the bills. Now, if that feels too clinical, that's okay. You could trade. You could alternate who pays for different bills. The key is if you've got disparate incomes, however, and you continue to split things 50-50 without talking about it, tensions can really build up that hurt your relationship over the long run.
Oh boy. And then same thing would go then, say, you know, before the two of you come together under one rooftop, one owns the home, the other one may be renting, so when the other person moves into the home with a mortgage, does that mean that there's still going to be rent involved, paying rent, or a contribution made?
Right. You know, and how unromantic does that sound? I love you, honey. Move in, now pay me rent. But logistically speaking, if you think about it, this is what I advise couples. If the person who is moving into the home would be paying about the same or less than they would if they were renting on their own, and they are not interested in owning their own home by themselves right away, it makes sense. The thing I worry about, Frederica, is when I see couples move in and the non-homeowner contributing to capital improvements in the home, and then the relationship splits up and you lose your sweetie and the investment you made in the home.
Oh boy. Okay, so then what about when it comes down to co-signing, getting a credit card together, buying a car together, or buying a property together, that whole co-signing thing?
Yeah, so this one is coming up more and more because credit standards are so tight. Oftentimes people need co-signers, and what I say is love may not last forever, but that co-signing agreement will. And so my rough rule of thumb on co-signing is don't do it unless you are absolutely willing to pick up the full obligation of that debt that you are co-signing on, because legally if you co-sign, that's just what you've agreed to do.
Right. Okay.
Exactly.
And then so as you come together, you bring your families together. Now, what happens when a family member wants to borrow some money, wants to borrow some kind of something, you know, which is an asset or has capital asset? What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, when we are floating around with unemployment above 9%, this is a very common and very sticky scenario. And so I think it boils down to how you and a couple have decided to handle your money. If you have joint funds, then I believe that you both should talk about it and it should be a joint decision. If you have separate funds, then I think as long as Party A helping their family does not affect Party B, in other words, if it goes wrong, that Party B becomes the financial backup plan, then Party A has complete right and reasonable grounds to make that decision, but it really comes down to talking about it, which is the thing that, it's the pink elephant in the bedroom. People don't want to talk about family members needing help.
Yeah, okay, and you kind of alluded to this when you talked about the whole co-signing thing, what could potentially happen, but say a member of the couple, one of you loses your job, then what?
So the first and the biggest mistake that I see here, Frederica, is couples continuing to spend money as if they had two incomes, because it's embarrassing and it hurts your ego, and it's just gut-wrenching to go through this. And so as tough as it is, the first conversation you need to have is, what expenses can we cut down on? What changes are we going to make? Because you only have two levers to keep your finances going: earn more or spend less.
Huh, okay, and then before you even get to that point, you know, maybe you both still have a job, but there are some signs that there may be some money trouble. Somebody's not handling their finances right. What are the signs? What do you look for? How do you know?
Sure, so this one may be a little counterintuitive, but I found it amazingly accurate. Frederica, I watch people and how they pay bills, and I mean that in public places. So let's say you're in a restaurant and the bill comes. I found that the individual who just throws down the credit card or doesn't even look at the bill typically is the one in financial distress. Financially responsible people at least check, make sure they didn't get the other table's bill, or weren't charged for 3 bottles of wine when they only ordered 1. Another thing I noticed is attitudes towards luxury items and how much home or car a person has relative to their profession or their income. If there are disparities there, those can be classic red flags.
Wow, all right, follow the money, honey. I kind of like that line you gave at the top. Manisha Thakor, thanks so much. Good to see you. And hopefully we will keep couples together as they keep their finances in check as well, thanks to your free advice today. Appreciate it.